The Russian Revolution by Sidney Oliver, Period 2. Some contributing factors to the revolution. There were economic problems, there was poverty, but only for the rural agricultural peasants, while nobility lived a comfortable life. And because of the Tsarist regime, there were centuries of oppression to the lower classes, which they wanted to revolt against. While some peasants had overcome serfdom, they were still unhappy with paying the state, and they wanted control of the land they worked on. Industrialization was not helping matters, overpopulating Russia, and so people had poorer conditions. Because of World War I, the depression just got worse, and the civilians of Russia were revolting against Tsar Nicholas II, and the communist Russians were having a retaliation against their royal counterparts. Some more contributing factors. And also because of the war, there was not enough food because to finance the war, the government had created many more ruble notes, which resulted in major inflation throughout Russia. And peasants throughout Russia were unhappy with rules of ownership of land, and there were terrible conditions to live in. People during the wartime were often working 10 to 12-hour days, and the conditions that they were living in were less than sanitary. People often lived in houses with up to 16 people, about 6 per room, and the amount of human waste around towns everywhere was quite unhealthy to the Russian citizens. Inadequate wages and the disciplinary measures were unhelpful too. This is a picture of a Russian man with a revolution flag in the background. The flag is a communist symbol with a hammer, a sickle, and a red star. It can represent the revolution, communism, peasantry, among other things. The revolutions. How the revolution actually played out. The first revolution of the few started in 1905, and then the February Revolution in 1917, and the October Revolution ending in 1918. The Russian Revolution is not, as most people think, one revolution. It is a combination of many events condensed into the February and October Revolutions. The February Revolution was mainly focused on St. Petersburg when members of Imperial Parliament took control of the government. And because of World War I, the army had been crippled financially and could not suppress the mutiny and revolt against Tsar Nicholas II, and so there was dual power, the provisional government and the Soviets. During this time, there was much revolution and many strikes. There was a chaotic period where no single organization had ultimate power and had economic depression because of World War I. In the October Revolution, the Bolshevik Party, led by Vladimir Lenin, overthrew the provisional government in St. Petersburg, which led to the Bolshevik Party seizing control of areas throughout the countryside, which in turn made the Cheka to stop the feud, and to solidify the peace, they signed the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk with Germany in March of 1918. And after the February and October revolutions, there was a sort of civil war between the Bolsheviks and anti-Bolsheviks, or the Reds and Whites, which the Reds, or Bolsheviks, ultimately won, which paved the way for the USSR, or the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. After this, there was the death of the imperial family, which is a famous event in history made into many movies and other media. Back to the USSR. This is a picture of the USSR with the revolution flag in the corner. Death of the imperial family. The provisional government placed Nicholas and his family under house arrest at the Alexander Palace at Tsarskoye Selo, 15 miles outside St. Petersburg, and after much debate, the Romanovs were moved to Yekaterinburg, a Bolshevik military stronghold. And on July 16th, in the early morning, Nicholas, his family, and some of his servants were killed. It is believed that the order to have them killed came directly from Vladimir Lenin, but there is no hard evidence to prove this. The results of the revolution. Because of the revolution, the reign of czars ended, and the USSR was in the works. The revolution itself paved the way. Peasants took over and redistributed land so it was fairer. Leo Trotsky said that the goal of socialism in Russia would not be realized without the success of the World Revolution. A revolutionary wave from the Russian Revolution lasted until 1923, and no other Marxist movement had been as successful. The power was in the hands of socialists, and the USSR had been created, and peasants had been given more rights. The end.